The leading disease in Asia is the topic of our presentation today.
亞洲嘅主要疾病係我哋今日要研究嘅題目。
This is an important issue because simple changes in our lifestyle can prevent those diseases.
呢個係一個重要嘅題目，因為我哋喺生活模式上只要有少少嘅轉變，就能夠預防呢啲疾病。
So now let's take a look on the main disease that cause death in Hong Kong first.
我哋先睇睇香港嘅10大致命嘅疾病先啦。
Cancer, heart disease, stroke, pneumonia, and respiratory diseases.
有癌症啦、心臟病、中風、肺炎同埋呼吸道嘅疾病。
Then accidents, kidney failure, diabetes, septicemia, and aortic aneurysm.
仲有咧就係意外啦、腎衰竭、糖尿病、敗血病同埋主動脈瘤。
If we take a look in the Taiwan statistics,
嗱，如果我哋睇下台灣嘅一啲數據咧，
you have cancer, strokes, heart disease, accidents, diabetes mellitus,
就會有癌症、中風、心臟病、意外同埋糖尿病。
and we have chronic liver disease, kidney disease, pneumonia, suicide, and respiratory diseases.
就會有慢性嘅肝病、腎病、肺炎、自殺同埋一啲呼吸系統嘅疾病。
And you see that the profile is not much different than Hong Kong.
所以我哋睇下咧，同香港嘅其實係相差無幾。
If you go to China, you see that the main cause of death in men are cancer, heart disease, strokes, accidents, and infectious diseases.
嗱，如果我哋去到中國，我哋就發現致命嘅疾病咧喺男士嚟講就係有癌症、心臟病、中風、意外同埋傳染病。
And women is heart disease, strokes, cancer, pneumonia, and infectious diseases.
至於女士咧就係心臟病、中風、癌症、肺炎同埋傳染病。
And this statistics is from Dr. He et al. In 2005.
呢個咧就係有一位嘅醫生喺2005年嘅時候所做嘅研究。
You see that if we summarize the main cause of death in these countries,
嗱，如果我哋要做一個總結嘅話咧，
you have cancer, heart disease, and strokes are the main three ones.
最主要嘅3種就係癌症、心臟病同埋中風。
Then pneumonia, accidents, and respiratory disease are the three next.
而其次咧就係意外啦、肺炎啦同埋傳染病。
So now let's take a look of each one of the disease by themselves.
嗱，我哋逐個嚟睇下。
So let's now take a look on the first cause of death, that is cancer.
首先我哋睇下頭號殺手癌症。
Cancer is abroad all these countries the main problem, not only as a death, but also as a disease, bringing many people to treatment.
喺頭先嗰3個國家，癌症都係一個主要嘅疾病原因同埋個致命嘅原因。
So the main cancers in these areas are lung cancer, colon cancer, liver, stomach, breast, and nasopharyngeal cancers.
而最普遍嘅咧就係肺癌、結腸癌、肝癌、胃癌、乳癌同埋鼻咽癌。
You see that the first cancer, lung cancer, is related to smoking.
嗱，好明顯咧，肺癌就係同吸煙有關。
And the second cancer, colon, is related to diet, mostly lack of fruits and vegetables.
而結腸癌咧就係因為缺少蔬菜同埋水果所引致嘅一種癌症。
But if you do a check a little more screening the disease, you see that most of the cancers, all of these main cancers are related to smoking and lack of fruits and vegetables.
嗱，如果當我哋再深入去研究嘅時候，你會發現呢度咁多種嘅癌症都係同吸煙同埋缺乏水果蔬菜有關。
As you see in these first two columns in this graphic.
就喺咧頭嗰2欄裏面咧，大家就可以睇得好清楚啦。
Another problem with cancer is related to virus.
嗱，另外咧就係癌症引致癌症嘅原因咧，就係同病毒有關。
Cancer is related to virus too.
癌症咧係同病毒有關。
Like the HIV cancer from AIDS is related to Kaposi sarcoma.
好似咧喺愛滋病嘅病毒裏面咧，就會引致一種嘅皮膚癌。
The HPV or human papilloma virus is related to cervical cancer in women.
而呢個 HPV 即係人類乳頭瘤病毒咧，就係同呢個子宮頸癌有關啦。
The HBV that cause hepatitis is related to liver cancer.
而 HBV 咧會引致乙型肝炎，亦都會引致肝癌。
And the EBV, or Epstein-Barr cancer, is related to nasopharyngeal cancers.
而 EBV 咧就係同呢個鼻咽癌有關啦。
So all of these cancers are transmitted by blood.
嗱，所有呢啲嘅癌症咧都係經由血傳染，
And somehow related to sexual transmitted diseases.
亦都係咧同經由性接觸傳染。
That's what we promote, a monogamous relationship between a woman and a man,
所以我哋咧鼓勵係單一嘅性伴侶，
as the safest way to prevent sexual transmitted diseases.
就係預防呢啲經由性接觸傳染嘅疾病。
Now let's talk about heart disease.
嗱，咁心臟病啦，
Heart disease is related to cholesterol,
嗱，心臟病咧就係因為膽固醇過高啦。
and the best way to prevent cholesterol or control cholesterol is to increase the number of vegetable fibers in the diet.
嗱，如果想預防呢一個心臟病咧，最好就係大量係食用呢個蔬菜，因為裏邊咧含有豐富嘅纖維。
And eat a diet low in fat, mostly animal fat.
嗱，少啲脂肪啦，特別係動物性嘅脂肪。
And then control 3 problems: weight, hypertension, and diabetes.
嗱，要控制3樣嘢，首先係體重，控制我哋嘅血壓，同埋控制我哋嘅血糖。
Other problems related to heart disease is smoking, exercise, and stress.
嗱，另外咧係引致心臟病嘅原因有吸煙啦、缺乏運動咧，同埋咧呢個壓力。
Mostly a person that has a hostile personality, very aggressive.
特別係嗰啲人咧係非常之有敵意嘅人啦。
Another problem is related to the medical assessment.
嗱，另外咧就係一個嘅身體檢查啦。
Most of people that have heart disease, they don't know that they have it. It's a silent disease in some cases.
好多人有心臟病，佢哋都唔知㗎喎。我哋稱為一個係隱藏嘅疾病。
And then when they present the symptoms, it's too late.
當佢哋出現症狀嘅時候，已經太遲啦。
Also, heart disease is affecting younger and younger population nowadays.
依家咧更多嘅好後生嘅人咧都患上咗呢個心臟病。
So it's important to have a checkup, and it is also important to following the medical prescription.
所以咧，經常係做呢個身體檢查啦，同埋咧依照醫生嘅吩咐去做咧，先至係上策。
In order to prevent diseases, specifically heart diseases, I advise a medical checkup.
嗱，要預防疾病，特別係心臟病，我建議大家去做一個身體檢查。
If you are 40 years and then you haven't done that before, you should have an examination.
嗱，如果你已經踏入40歲，但係從來都未做過身體檢查嘅話咧，我建議你去做啦。
The first test I advise is an electrocardiogram to check your heart.
首先就係要做一個嘅心電圖嘅測試。
So it's important for 2 reasons. One is that you see how your heart is working,
首先我哋就可以睇到我哋咧個心臟嘅情況係點，
and then you have a record for future consideration.
亦都係保持一個嘅記錄，將來係要嚟做比較。
I have an interesting history about my wife.
咁啊有一次咧，我太太有一個好有趣嘅經驗。
She went to the doctor because she was feeling some pain and some pain in the chest and some bloating.
咁當時咧，佢咧就發現咧個胸口有啲唔舒服，所以佢就去睇醫生啦。
And the doctor advised her to do an angiogram
咁醫生就建議佢去做一個心臟嘅血管剪影，
because her electrocardiogram have some alterations.
因為佢嗰個嘅心電圖裏面咧出現咗一啲嘅問題。
Then I told him that I had a record of an electrocardiogram 10 years before with the same alteration.
咁但係我就話俾佢聽，其實10年前佢做嘅心電圖已經有呢個情況㗎咯喎。
But he said she has to do it no matter what.
咁無論如何啦，醫生都係一定堅持咧，佢要做嗰個測試。
She went for the angiogram, and when she finished it,
咁佢去做嗰個嘅血管嘅造影，做完之後咧，
the doctor in charge asked her, "What you are doing here? your heart is the best heart that I have ever seen here.
咁個醫生就同佢講話：咦，你嚟呢度做乜嘢啊？似乎你個心臟係我見咁多個病人裡面最健康嘅一個喎。
The other test that I advise people to take is the X-ray of the lungs.
另外一個就係要照肺啦。
So it's important to have this test again for two reasons. One is for record, and second is to check your lungs and check also your heart.
有咩用咧？就係話我哋要睇一睇我哋嘅心臟啦，同埋咧嗰個肺嘅情況。其次就係咧保留一個記錄。
So if you never have done this test before, you should do.
嗱，如果你以前從來都冇做過呢啲測試咧，我建議你就要去做啦。
Two more tests that we advise is the blood glucose and the blood cholesterol test.
另外兩個測試包括血糖同埋膽固醇。
And for men, we advise a prostate examination.
如果男士咧，最好做埋前列腺檢查添。
And for women, examination of the breast and pap smears test.
而女士咧就要做埋呢個乳房嘅檢查，同埋咧呢個柏氏抹片嘅檢查。
Please, if you haven't done so, go for your medical examination.
如果你真係以前未做過，依家就去做啦。
Another cause of death is strokes.
另外一個引致命嘅疾病就係中風啦。
In a few years, the stroke is going to be one of the main causes of death in Asia for sure.
我相信咧喺幾年之內咧，中風會成為頭號嘅殺手。
And this is related to hypertension.
呢個咧係同我哋嘅血壓過高有關。
Factors that help to increase blood pressure is alcohol, smoking, and too much salt.
嗱，如果我哋係吸煙啦、飲酒啦，同埋食太鹹嘅嘢咧，都會令到我哋嘅血壓上升。
Factors that help to decrease blood pressure are potassium, exercise, stress control, calcium, and sesame seed.
嗱，有一啲嘢可以幫我哋咧係減低我哋血壓嘅，例如咧係有運動啦，控制我哋嘅壓力啦。喺食物裡面咧含豐富嘅鉀質同埋鈣啦，而且咧係喺芝麻裡面咧都有一啲可以幫我哋降血壓嘅作用。
There is a general advice that we should eat 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables per day.
咁我哋建議咧一個人咧每日係能夠食到8至到10份嘅蔬果咧就最好啦。
And the main reason for that is that these kind of foods increase the level of potassium, and potassium can control blood pressure.
因為咧呢一啲咁樣嘅食物咧係可以增加我哋身體裡面嘅鉀質，能夠有效咁控制血壓。
Now another very common disease in Asia is pneumonia.
嗱，另外一個喺亞洲比較普遍嘅病咧就係肺炎啦。
Traditional pneumonia is caused by bacteria.
傳統嚟講咧，肺炎咧就係因為細菌引致嘅。
But in Asia, we have pneumonia caused by virus.
但喺亞洲嚟講，呢個肺炎咧就係從病毒嗰度引致喎。
Because of the weather, because of the pollution,
因為咧嗰啲嘅天氣啦，同埋咧好嚴重嘅污染嘅問題。
because of crowded spaces full of people,
即係因為咧人口太多啦，太稠密，
this is one of the main infections in Asia.
所以咧呢一個咧喺亞洲嚟講咧都係一個幾嚴重嘅一個問題。
The advice is to improve the immune system.
咁我建議大家能夠係改善一下我哋嘅免疫系統。
There is one specific food like grapes that are rich in antioxidant called resveratrol.
喺我哋食嘅提子裏面含有一種抗氧化物。
Resveratrol is very concentrated in the circulation in the lungs.
咁而呢一種嘅抗氧化物咧，主要就喺我哋嘅肺嘅血液循環裏面。
Also, grapes and blueberries have resveratrol.
而且喺我哋食用嘅一啲嘅提子啦，同埋咧我哋嘅藍莓裏面咧，都係有好豐富呢一種嘅抗氧化物。
Garlic also helps to improve the immune system, and a lot of fruits and vegetables.
除此之外，蒜頭啦同埋蔬果咧都可以改善我哋嘅免疫系統。
And exercise, mostly exercise outdoors.
戶外嘅運動亦都係唔可以缺少嘅。
One of the most important antioxidants for the lungs is beta-carotene.
有一個好重要嘅抗氧化物係對個肺好嘅咧，就係胡蘿蔔素啦。
High levels of beta-carotene in the lungs area is found when a person is having an infection.
嗱，如果咧當一個人咧佢有肺炎嘅時候咧，佢就發現啊喺嗰個血液循環，特別係喺肺部血液循環裏面咧，係含有好豐富嘅胡蘿蔔素。
And people that die from respiratory disease, they have lower levels of beta-carotene.
嗱，而呢啲死於呼吸系統疾病嘅人咧，佢哋嗰個胡蘿蔔素嘅水平係相對低。
The main foods high in beta-carotene are the yellow ones.
黃色嘅食物裏面咧就係含有好豐富嘅胡蘿蔔素啦。
Carrots, papaya, pumpkin, sweet potatoes, mangoes, and also the dark green vegetables.
包括有紅蘿蔔啦、木瓜啦、南瓜啦、番薯、芒果，甚至係一啲深綠色嘅蔬菜裏面都係有豐富嘅胡蘿蔔素。
Now talking about fresh air.
嗱，其實呢一個嘅新鮮嘅空氣有幾重要呢？
I would like to present the experience in the Prince of Wales Hospital during the SARS epidemic.
我想同大家分享一下喺沙士期間威爾斯親王醫院嘅一個實際經驗。
In the beginning of the epidemic, the patients come to the hospital and it was still springtime.
當呢個疫症啱啱開始爆發嘅時候，仲係春天嘅時間。
So the hospital could keep the windows open and they have fresh air and no patient was dying at that time.
因此當時嘅病房所有嘅窗都打開咗，喺嗰個時候咧係冇病人死嘅。
But as soon as the weather became hotter, they have to turn on the air conditioner and close the windows.
而當呢個天氣開始熱起上嚟，佢哋咧就開冷氣啦。
And then the patients started dying.
之後咧，啲病人就相繼咁樣死。
This is very important because today many hospitals are considering the fresh air ventilation system for mostly for the infections disease rooms.
嗱，咁其實好重要喎，新鮮嘅空氣，特別係啲呼吸系統疾病嘅人嚟講咧，喺醫院咧，佢哋都好希望能夠保持到呢個空氣流通。
So ventilation is basic for any patient with a respiratory disease.
所以對於呢啲有呼吸性疾病嘅人咧，佢係最基本嘅。
On the other hand, for the prevention, please keep outdoors as much as possible.
所以要預防呢啲疾病嘅話咧，最好就係留喺室外嘅地方啦。
Another type of respiratory diseases are not infectious.
嗱，另外一種呼吸系統嘅疾病咧，就冇傳染性嘅喎。
They are considered chronic degenerative disease of the lungs and the bronchi.
咁通常呢啲咧就係一啲慢性嘅氣管同埋支氣管嘅問題，
like emphysema and bronchitis.
包括咧肺氣腫啦、支氣管炎。
The main cause of that is smoking, second-hand smoking and pollution.
咁佢引致嘅原因咧就係因為吸煙，無論係二手煙啦、一手煙啦，或者咧甚至係一啲空氣污染嘅問題。
One thing that helps in the prevention is exercise.
點樣可以預防咧？最重要就係要有足夠嘅運動。
In order to have a good function of the lungs,
如果要維持你嗰個嘅肺咧，係有個最好嘅功能咧，
is not only ventilation or doing outdoor exercise. You have to improve your respiration or breathing.
唔單止咧係要保持空氣流通同埋有戶外活動，最重要咧就係能夠使住你嘅呼吸系統咧更加暢順啦。
I will demonstrate 2 breathing exercise now.
好啦，我教大家咧2個呼吸嘅練習。
So the next one or the first one will be breathing and counting until 4.
第一個咧就係吸氣數4下，
And then breathing out and counting until 4 again.
然後呼氣又再數4下。
I will count with my fingers and then when I breathe in and then I will continue with my fingers when I breathe out.
嗱，我會用我嘅手指咧嚟數嘅。
So let's go. Breathe in.
吸氣1、2、3、4，
Out.
呼氣1、2、3、4，
In.
吸2、3、4，
Out.
呼2、3、4。
Okay. The next exercise is to exercise your abdominal muscles when you breathe.
嗱，第二咧就係當你呼吸嘅時候咧，你做一做腹部肌肉嘅運動。
So you have to put your hands in the abdominal.
你要擺隻手咧喺你個肚墩嗰度。
So when the air goes in, your abdomen goes out.
當你吸氣嘅時候，呢個肚腹會向前突出。
Let's do that now. In.
吸，
Abdomen out. Now out.
呼，
In.
吸，肚脹嘅。
Out.
呼，肚凹嘅。
Okay, to do that in a practical way, we press the belly and then we breathe out the air from the lungs like that.
嗱，就係點做咧？就係當你嘅手擺喺個肚墩嗰度咧，撳落去，然後咧就呼出嚟，幫你呼啲氣出嚟。
Okay, now you have two exercises, and the advice is that you do those exercises during the day, at least several times a day.
嗱，建議你哋做呢啲呼吸運動啊，每一日咧做幾次。
Another problem is accidents.
嗱，另一個問題就係意外啦。
In generally, accidents are related to alcohol intake.
一般嚟講咧，呢啲意外都係同酒精扯上關係。
Alcohol is related to many vehicle accidents.
因為飲咗酒之後會引致呢個交通意外。
And there is an statistics that 40 to 50% of accidents are caused under alcohol influence.
咁喺研究裏面發現有40%至50%嘅呢啲交通意外都係因為飲咗酒嘅問題。
The other important factor is exercise or being in shape.
咁咧，另外一個咧就係要運動啦，要咧有好嘅體魄。
A person that goes to the gym or that practice exercise every day has better muscles and better reflex and strength and prevent falls and things like that.
嗱，如果一個人佢經常有做運動嘅話咧，佢嘅反應啦、佢嘅肌肉啦同埋佢嘅力度咧都會係好啲嘅喎，所以咧相對嚟講咧嗰個跌倒嘅問題咧就會少啲啦。
Another problem with accident is the life risk behavior.
嗱，另外一個咧就係好多人咧中意有啲冒險性嘅行為。
People that like to risk, that go beyond the limits, that drive too fast, that risk their lives all the time.
好多時候咧，佢想衝破自己嗰個極限，例如咧揸車揸到好快嘅時候咧，就會容易引起呢個意外啦。
And mostly related to car accidents are the needs to have 7 hours of sleep per night.
所以好重要咧，要預防呢啲意外咧，除咗唔會做以上嘅嘢之外咧，就係有足夠嘅睡眠，起碼每日有7個鐘頭。
It is very interesting, but if you sleep less than 7 hours per night and you have to drive,
嗱，如果你每一日瞓唔夠7個鐘頭要揸車嘅話咧，
your reflexes and your ability to drive is similar to a person that is drinking alcohol.
咁你揸車嘅時候，無論咧係你嘅反應啊，或者各樣嘢咧，就等於你好似一個飲咗酒嘅人一樣喎。
In China, approximately 90,000 people die per year because of accidents in the road.
嗱，喺中國咧就有一啲嘅統計數字，大概每年咧因為呢個交通意外而死亡咧有9萬人。
As we mentioned before, alcohol is one of the main factors.
頭先我哋講過啦，酒精係一個最主要引致嘅原因。
The other is traffic problems. I mean, we have people, we have cars, motorbikes, and bikes in the same road.
另外咧就係一啲交通嘅問題，例如咧太人多啦，有好多嘅單車啊、電單車同樣咧都喺呢個路上面行駛。
Then there is a need for law enforcement, for people to obey the signs and obey the traffic lights and things.
所以咧需要咧執法人員咧係能夠使到啲道路使用者能夠依照呢個交通嘅指示係好重要。
And then there are the safety, the personal safety, like using the seat belt and checking the car brakes.
嗱，其次就係安全嘅問題，例如係帶安全帶啦，或者咧係檢驗下咧佢哋個剎車系統啦等等。
And the public safety, like checking the road for holes and for things that can make an accident more easily.
或者咧亦都係一啲譬如道路嘅維修啦，檢查睇下邊度有窿啊，有啲障礙物咧係會阻礙咗呢個交通。
And then my last advice is that stay on your side of the road, please.
另外咧就係話，你最好咧都係行翻你應該行嘅嗰條路啦。
If you are in China and Taiwan, stay on your right side of the road.
嗱，譬如喺中國啦，或者喺台灣啦，你就係要咧右上嘅。
And if you are in Hong Kong, stay on your left side of the road, please.
咁喺香港咧，我哋就要咧係左上右落啦。
Okay, now let's talk about kidney diseases.
好，跟住我哋睇下呢個腎病。
One of the things important to prevent kidney disease is to use less protein, mostly animal protein in the diet.
嗱，最重要咧，我哋就係咧減低呢一個蛋白質嘅攝取量，特別係呢個動物嘅蛋白質。
And to use less fat and less salt in the diet too.
嗱，少啲嘅油啦，少啲嘅脂肪，少啲嘅鹽。
More water traditionally is known as the best way to prevent kidney problems.
要多飲水啦，呢一個咧係我哋傳統相信咧係能夠有幫助預防腎病一個好重要嘅原因。
Another problem is hypertension. This can lead to kidney destruction.
嗱，另外就係要好好咁控制我哋嘅高血壓啦，因為咧佢會令到咧我哋咧係有腎嘅衰竭問題。
And one more problem for kidney is the presence of infections.
嗱，另外一個問題就係有時候咧個腎咧都會發炎喎。
That's why it is important to have a good immune system.
所以有一個好嘅免疫系統咧就非常重要啦。
In women, the incidence of urinary infections is very common.
因為喺女士特別咧，我哋就係話尿道炎咧係一個幾普遍嘅疾病。
Then I would advise to drink more water and have precautions of a good hygiene.
我就會建議大家多飲水，同埋咧保持衛生啦。
Okay, the next disease is diabetes.
跟住落嚟就係糖尿病。
Related to exercise, and there is a need to use less fat and less sugar in the diet.
咁我哋相信咧就係同唔足夠嘅運動有關。咁我哋建議咧係少啲食脂肪啦，同埋糖嘅食物。
And traditionally, we have asked people to use more fiber, whole wheat, brown rice, and beans.
咁我哋會建議咧係多啲食纖維質嘅嘢喎，例如係咧全麥五穀類啦、豆類啦。
There is a relationship between diabetes and hypertension.
原來咧糖尿病同血壓都有關係嘅喎。
So it's important to control both when you have both.
嗱，所以如果你兩樣都出現問題嘅話咧，你就要好好咁控制啦。
So what I'm talking is that many people start with diabetes and later on they have hypertension.
嗱，因為好多時候開始嘅時候，一個人咧佢係只係患上糖尿病，但係冇幾耐咧佢又會有埋高血壓。
And many people start with hypertension and later on they have diabetes.
調翻轉，有啲人係先有高血壓，跟住冇幾耐咧就有糖尿病。
One of the main problems with diabetes and hypertension
嗱，一個對於呢個糖尿病患者或者高血壓患者咧，有一個好主要嘅問題
is the lack of compliance. They don't follow the doctor's prescription.
嗱，好多時候佢哋咧就係唔係太順從嘅，特別係醫生嘅吩咐咧，佢哋唔會照做嘅。
And diabetics don't follow the dietitian or the exercise prescription.
而糖尿病患者咧，佢又唔跟從咧呢個營養師啦，同埋咧呢個運動嘅治療師佢哋嘅處方。
In fact, they don't follow anything.
佢哋其實唔跟嘅。
So my advice is that if you have this disease, you should follow the doctor's instructions.
嗱，如果你真係有呢啲疾病，我會真係建議你咧係要跟醫生嘅吩咐去做。
Remember, diabetes can have serious consequences.
因為咧糖尿病嘅後果係好嚴重嘅。
You can lose your eyes and you can lose your legs if you have this disease.
佢會令你睇唔到嘢，或者係失去一對腳。
Please take control.
所以好好咁控制啦。
Another common problem in Asia is called septicemia.
嗱，另一個喺亞洲比較普遍嘅疾病咧，就係敗血病。
Septicemia means infection in the blood.
敗血病意思即係話咧喺我哋嘅血液受到感染。
To have a bacteria in the blood, you have to have a very weak immune system.
嗱，點可能啲血裏邊會有細菌呢？就係當我哋嘅免疫系統係好弱嘅時候。
This is a very serious disease that can lead to death.
呢個係一個嚴重嘅問題嚟㗎，因為佢會引致死亡。
That's why it's important to have a very good immune system.
所以咧，要有一個強嘅免疫系統咧，就非常重要啦。
One thing that lower or block the immune system is to use of too much drugs and mostly too much antibiotics.
如果我哋用太多嘅藥或者係大量咁使用抗生素，就會削弱咗我哋嘅免疫系統。
So I have an advice for the patient and I have an advice for the doctor now.
咁我咧就係俾病人同埋醫生都有一個建議。
So if you are the patient, avoid to take antibiotic for any symptom that you have of a cold.
嗱，我會建議啲病人咧，就係當你只係傷風感冒嘅時候咧，就千祈咧唔好食抗生素。
Because the use of too many antibiotics is causing what we call superbacteria, a bacteria that is resistant to any antibiotic.
嗱，因為大量咁使用抗生素咧，會製造咗好多超級嘅細菌。
So doctors, please don't prescribe antibiotics for any single disease that you see in the office.
所以咧，我會奉勸醫生咧，唔好將呢個抗生素咧係開俾每一位嘅病人。
And remember that antibiotics only kill bacteria, they cannot kill virus.
但係要記住喎，因為抗生素佢只係殺細菌，佢唔能夠殺我哋嘅病毒㗎。
Another problem in Asia is hospitalization.
另一個喺亞洲嘅問題就係一個住院嘅問題。
In the United States, hospitalization is related to death of 90,000 people per year.
咁喺美國嚟講咧，佢哋相信咧呢一個喺住院而引致嘅死亡咧，係每年有9萬人。
In China, there is an estimate of 200,000 people that die per year because of hospital.
而至於喺中國方面咧，佢嘅情況就係相信咧大概有20萬嘅人係因為住院而引致死亡。
Remember, hospitals are responsible for treatment. They are not responsible for prevention or health.
嗱，記住喎，住院只係做治療，佢幫唔到你咧健康啲或者去預防疾病㗎。
So avoid hospitals and try to stay as short as possible time there.
所以盡量唔好入院啦。如果真係有需要入院嘅時候咧，都唔好住得太耐。
People use a lot of medication, and this is not good for the immune system.
有好多人好中意咧係食好多藥嘅，但係咧對於我哋嘅免疫系統一啲好處都冇。
So sometimes a person starts with a pain, and then they use aspirin, the most famous drug for pain.
嗱，有時候當佢哋覺得有啲頭痛啊，有啲痛症嘅時候咧，佢就會食一啲阿士匹靈，大家都好熟悉嘅一隻藥。
But aspirin will affect the stomach, and then a person needs to take a antacid to alleviate the symptom.
嗱，咁但係咧呢個阿士匹靈咧會傷胃，於是咧又要食一啲抗酸劑。
But the antacid will cause the intestines to work very slow, and then the person has to take a laxative.
但係呢一個嘅抗酸劑咧，亦都會將我哋腸道嘅蠕動係減慢，於是又要食一啲輕瀉劑啦。
But the laxative might cause some allergies, and then the person has to take an allergy pill.
但係呢一隻輕瀉劑可能又會引致咧有啲敏感嘅情況喎，咁於是咧佢又要食一啲抗敏劑啦。
But the allergy pill gets the person very sleepy during the day.
嗱，你食咗抗敏劑，你可以想像到咧喺日頭就會好眼瞓。
And then the person takes something to take the sleep away and be more active.
咁於是咧佢又要食一啲嘅藥咧，係使到佢咧清醒啲、精神啲。
But when he gets the night, the person does not have sleep and has to take the one sleeping pill.
但係到夜晚又瞓唔着咯喎，於是咧佢又要咧食一啲安眠藥。
So you see an example of how confused your system goes when you mix with a lot of medications.
嗱，所以當你咧去將好多嘅藥物咧一齊去食嘅時候，你可以想像到我哋身體嘅系統咧係會出現咗好多嘅變化。
So my advice is avoid to take pill as much as possible.
我嘅建議就係盡量食越少藥越好。
Another cause of death is aortic aneurysm.
另一個致命嘅疾病就係主動脈瘤。
Aortic aneurysm is a circulatory problem that happens inside of the arteries.
嗱，呢一個主動脈瘤咧就係因為一個血液循環嘅問題所引致。
Aorta is the main artery that leaves the heart.
嗱，主動脈咧事實上就係喺心臟將血液帶出去身體部分嘅最重要嘅動脈。
And when there is a dilation in the aorta, as you see in the picture, this we call aneurysm.
嗱，當呢個主動脈瘤擴張咗嘅話咧，我哋就稱佢為主動脈瘤。
This is caused by atherosclerosis.
佢係因為動脈硬化所引致嘅。
What is atherosclerosis?
動脈硬化係乜嘢咧？
This is the development of plaques of fat and cholesterol inside of an artery.
其實就係一啲脂肪或者膽固醇一啲嘅積聚喺個血管裏邊。
What causes it is too much cholesterol, lack of exercise, and smoking.
係由於呢個吸煙啦、食用大量嘅膽固醇高嘅食物啦，同埋咧係缺乏運動所引致。
So weightlifting and the Valsalva maneuver, those two things are responsible not for the production of the aneurysm, but for the burst of the aneurysm.
而又會乜嘢引致到呢啲主動脈瘤會爆咧？主要咧就係一啲舉重啦，同埋一啲勞扎嘅現象。
And this is a problem when a person lifts the weight holding their breath.
當啲人舉重嘅時候，多數咧就會忍住啖氣，谷住啖氣。
So that's what we give the advice that everyone that practices weightlifting has to stay keeping breathing during the exercise.
所以我哋會鼓勵一啲舉重嘅人士咧，佢哋喺舉重嘅時候繼續保持佢正常嘅呼吸。
Another common problem in Asia is liver diseases.
另外一個咧就係肝病。
Liver disease have three basic causes.
肝病有3個主要嘅引致嘅原因，
Hepatitis, fat liver, and alcohol intake.
包括乙型肝炎啦、脂肪肝同埋飲酒。
Let's talk about each one individually.
我哋逐個睇下。
Hepatitis B is caused by a virus, the HBV.
呢一個嘅乙型肝炎係由 HBV 病毒所引致，
That's why it's important to have a good immune system.
所以要有一個免疫同埋好強嘅免疫系統咧，係非常重要嘅。
There is some immunization or some vaccination for this virus.
嗱，我哋可以打啲預防針去預防呢一隻病毒嘅感染。
But don't forget that this virus is transmitted by blood or by sex.
嗱，係點樣傳染翻嚟嘅咧？通常就係經由血啦或者係性接觸嘅傳染。
The next part that we are going to discuss is the fatty liver disease.
跟住我哋睇下咧呢個脂肪肝啦。
The deposit of fat in the liver, you see in the picture beside here,
嗱，我哋可以喺圖片裏面睇到咧啲脂肪積聚喺肝裏邊，
is related to overweight or obesity.
係同我哋咧超重啦，同埋咧係過重有關嘅。
Mostly when people use too much fat in the diet, like fried foods or animal fat.
嗱，有啲人咧佢哋食用嘅食物裏邊咧就係含太多嘅脂肪，例如咧係啲油炸嘢啊，同埋咧含好豐富嘅飽和脂肪。
Another example is butter, lard, cheese, and bakeries produced by trans fatty acid or by animal fat.
咁咧喺食物裏面咧，佢哋時時都食用牛油啦、豬油啦、芝士啦，同埋一啲烤焗嘅食物，我哋啲叫反式脂肪。
Most of the people that deposit fat in the abdomen have a high risk of fatty liver.
嗱，所以如果你中央肥胖，即係大肚腩嘅話咧，你就好容易係有呢個脂肪肝嘅問題啦。
Another factor for liver disease is alcohol intake.
嗱，跟住咧就係飲酒嘅問題啦。
We advise you to just avoid it.
嗱，我奉勸大家咧唔好飲酒，
Alcohol can cause liver cirrhosis.
因為飲酒會引致肝硬化。
So, for any person that drinks every day, you have a higher risk of liver cirrhosis than people that don't drink at all.
嗱，如果你係一個每日都要飲翻一杯嘅人咧，你所患嘅肝病或者係肝硬化咧，係會比起一啲唔飲酒嘅人咧係會高嘅。
Alcohol literally kills the liver cells.
酒精會傷害我哋肝臟嘅細胞。
So alcoholics, most of the people that are addicted to alcohol, they will develop liver cirrhosis.
嗱，特別係一啲酗酒人士咧，佢哋就會容易係有呢個肝硬化啦。
How do you know if you are an alcoholic?
咁你點知你係咪一個酗酒人呢？
If you say yes to one of these questions, you probably need help.
嗱，如果你以上嘅問題其中有一條答案係是嘅話咧，你就需要尋求幫助啦。
The first thing that we advise is to go and look for the Alcoholics Anonymous.
首先咧，你應該係揾一啲戒酒會。
Then the second level should be look for a church that can help to stop drinking.
其次就係揾一啲教會嘅幫助。
And third, you might need a medical treatment.
可能有啲人需要藥物嘅治療。
But for any treatment that you have, you need to have a very strong support system.
嗱，無論你接受任何嘅治療都好啦，你需要有一個好強嘅支持網絡。
And with friends and relatives that understand the alcohol addiction and can support you.
特別係一啲對於酗酒嘅壞處能夠好清楚明白嘅朋友或者係家人。
And also support from the professionals.
仲有啲專業人士添。
Counselors, doctors, psychologists.
輔導員啦、醫生啦，或者係心理學家。
Mostly people that have a knowledge on how to treat and prevent alcohol.
特別係對於佢哋咧係知道點樣去幫你戒酒嘅嗰啲。
So now let's talk about infectious diseases.
跟住我哋睇下傳染病啦。
The most common types are diarrhea, malaria, tuberculosis, and AIDS.
嗱，比較普遍嘅咧就係有一啲輻射啦，係我哋譬如話霍亂啦、瘧疾啦、肺癆啦同埋愛滋病。
So the prevention of infectious disease depends on different factors.
嗱，佢預防性嘅咧係有幾個重點。
First of all, we talk about immunization.
首先我哋就睇下呢個防疫啦。
Mostly in children, they have to follow the vaccines that are important to prevent children's diseases.
嗱，所以喺細個嘅時候就應該打齊所有嘅防疫針。
And then we have the hygiene problem.
另外就係要衞生啦。
And then we have the sanitation problem in the environment.
而且亦都係環境嘅衞生都非常重要。
When I talk about hygiene, I mean personal hygiene, how to have a clean environment and clean habits of hygiene in the family.
嗱，如果我講到衞生，其實我哋講緊個人衞生，就係個人咧喺家庭同埋環境裏面咧嘅衞生。
And environmental hygiene or sanitation would be the government control of water and sewage and cleanliness in the environment.
而當我講到咧係環境衞生嘅時候咧，最主要咧呢一個係一個政府嘅責任，佢咧需要咧俾我哋有啲乾淨嘅食水啦，一個好嘅居住嘅環境啦，同埋咧點樣咧去廢置咧嗰啲嘅廢物等等嘅。
So infectious diseases are very complicated, but the first thing is to develop a good immune system.
傳染病係一個幾複雜嘅病，但係咧最重要都係咧要強化我哋嘅免疫系統去預防。
And then we have a need of a good system of public health to prevent the disease in the community.
嗱，至於呢個公眾嘅健康教育咧，去預防都係非常重要㗎。
As you see in this list, we promote here one lifestyle that is important to develop a good immune system.
嗱，喺我哋呢度列出嚟嘅咧，其實係一啲健康嘅生活習慣。我哋咧就係想話俾大家聽，呢啲健康嘅生活習慣係有幫助我哋強化免疫系統。
New START is an acronym for the first letter of all the factors that we are going to talk next.
其實咧，新起點呢個 New Start 嘅每一個英文字母咧，其實都係一個健康要素嘅開始。
Like N means nutrition.
嗱 ，N 呢個意思係營養。
So nutrition is basic to have a good lifestyle.
呢個咧就係需要有一個好嘅生活模式，
and to have a good immune system.
能夠帶出一個好嘅免疫系統。
Then we have to do enough exercise, you have to drink enough water, you have to take enough sunshine.
嗱，我哋有足夠嘅運動，飲足夠嘅水，同埋咧係有曬陽光嘅時間。
Then you have to develop temperance habits. That means avoid poisonous substance like alcohol and smoking.
嗱，講到節制嘅時候，我哋就係講緊咧係要防止一啲有害嘅物質，例如係吸煙飲酒。
Air means go to fresh air places like parks and country.
嗱，要有好嘅空氣咧，我哋可能要去到郊外嘅地方去吸呢個新鮮嘅空氣。
And have enough rest, at least 7 hours of sleep per night.
有足夠嘅休息啦，每日咧需要有7個鐘頭嘅睡眠。
And develop enough trust in God as a spiritual part of health.
要信靠上帝，呢個咧就係我哋屬靈健康嘅重要性。
One more disease that is a problem in Asia is suicide.
嗱，其中一個咧喺亞洲一個重要嘅致命嘅原因咧就係自殺。
And this is being common even in young populations.
就算係喺年輕嘅人咧，都係好普遍喎。
The main cause of suicide is depression.
主要係因為抑鬱所引致嘅。
Depression is characterized when a person is down and when a person is sad.
嗱，憂鬱症咧就話當一個人咧佢唔開心同埋好失落嘅時候。
A person with depression increases the risk of cancer, heart disease, stroke, and pneumonia.
但係憂鬱嘅人，佢哋會增加患癌症、心臟病死亡同埋中風死亡嘅機會。
And the risk of suicide by 50 to 80%.
亦都會增加咧佢哋自殺率係多5至到8成。
So if you take a look on this picture, you see the rates of suicide in Hong Kong.
嗱，如果我哋睇呢幅圖片，就會睇到咧香港呢個自殺嘅問題。
Compared to other countries in the world.
同其他世界國家去比較。
Most of the countries, they have a highest risk of suicide among men than women.
喺世界唔同嘅地方，佢哋咧男士佢哋自殺嘅機會率係多過女士。
Except by China, as you see in this picture.
嗱，除咗咧係中國。
China has a slight increase in the suicide rates in women than men.
中國咧女士自殺率係比男士高。
Why people commit suicide?
點解佢哋會自殺呢？
In Hong Kong, the suicide profile, according to this research, is unemployed people, housewives, school dropouts.
嗱，通常一啲自殺嘅人，佢哋多係一啲失業嘅人啦，或者係家庭主婦，或者係啲失學嘅人。
And 25% of people that try suicide, they are in debt.
嗱，相信咧喺呢個自殺嘅人裏邊咧，大概係有1/4嘅人係有欠債嘅問題。
Either because of gambling or credit card use.
可能係因為好賭啦，亦都可能係因為信用卡嘅債務太龐大啦。
So you see, it's not just the personality. Sometimes a person can get in trouble financially, and this can lead to suicide too.
嗱，所以唔單止係一個個人嘅問題，亦都係咧佢嗰個嘅佢嘅喜好啊，佢所中意嘅嘢，引致到咧佢係有好多債務嘅問題咧，亦都會引致呢個嘅自殺。
So in China, the profile is a little different as we have more female committing suicide there.
嗱，喺中國嚟講咧，女士嘅自殺率係比較高。
This statistics say that 55% of the world female suicides occur in China.
佢發覺咧，女性嘅自殺咧係佔全球嘅55.8%。
And this is related to family conflicts at first.
首先係同呢個家庭嘅衝突有關。
And then the problem of male domination. Women are unable to express emotions, and then they swallow the feelings, and then they resort to suicide many times.
嗱，女士佢唔能夠有足夠嘅渠道去表達佢嘅情感，佢咧將佢內化咗之後咧，佢就會引致好多心理嘅問題。
The suicide symptoms are very similar to the depression symptoms that we mentioned before.
嗱，自殺嘅徵兆同頭先我哋所講憂鬱嘅徵兆咧係好相似。
Sadness or emptiness,
悲傷啦，覺得同埋好空虛。
apathy, or I would say the sense of isolation,
對周邊嘅嘢失去興趣啦，覺得孤立。
agitation or restlessness,
焦慮同埋坐立不安。
and then disturbances in sleep and appetite,
瞓得唔好啦，同埋食得唔好嘅。
and lack of concentration,
難以集中精神，
feelings of excessive guilt or worthlessness.
感到過分嘅罪惡感，同埋覺得自己冇價值。
People with the profile of suicide, they don't feel pleasure in life.
嗰啲自殺嘅人，佢哋覺得生活係冇乜樂趣。
They have morbid thoughts, always talking about death.
佢哋亦都會有一啲嘅病態嘅思想，成日都係諗死亡嘅問題。
And they feel very fatigued.
佢哋會覺得好攰。
You see that people that are in this suicide mood, they are very down, very isolated, and they don't feel any pleasure in life.
所以你可以睇到呢一班人想自殺嗰啲人，佢哋其實喺生活上面係感到完全嘅係冇晒樂趣，覺得自己係好低落。
One of the main advices for people with the idea of committing suicide
給予一啲有自殺念頭嘅人一個忠告，
is this: help others to help yourself.
幫助其他人，從而幫助自己。
There is a report of a person in the Yangtze River.
咁有一個嘅喺長江裏面有一個人，
He is called the watchman of the bridge.
佢咧係稱為橋嘅守護者。
He is a man in his mid-30 years old, and then he became the angel of the Yangtze River.
佢當時係30多歲，而佢就成為咗呢個長江橋嘅一位天使。
In the year 2004, he stopped 42 people of committing suicide jumping off the bridge.
喺2004年，佢阻止咗42位意圖喺橋上面跳落去自殺嘅人。
And he just stand by and he just talk to the people and dismotivate them to commit suicide.
咁佢就係企喺旁邊，然後咧鼓勵佢，希望佢唔好自殺。
So my advice is for a person that does not have the suicide ideation, for a normal person, what is the advice?
嗱，如果我哋唔係有自殺念頭嘅話咧，我哋有啲咩建議咧？
Pay attention to people that have morbid language and social isolation.
留意一啲佢哋成日都講病態語句嘅人，同埋咧一啲自我封閉嘅人，
And try to maintain communication and friendship with that person.
同佢哋保持呢個聯絡，同埋咧繼續友誼。
Try to make people aware that there is a person that is isolation in their friendship and in their family.
嗱，俾佢哋知道，話俾佢哋嘅朋友、屋企人聽，佢哋有呢一個嘅懷疑。
Try to make this person be happy in the environment that they are.
希望咧佢能夠喺個環境裏面咧，能夠揾到快樂。
And if you can, you advise that person to look for help to a counselor, to a professional.
嗱，如果可能嘅話咧，係轉介佢哋去見一啲專業人士，或者係見輔導員。
If you are the person that have the idea of suicide,
嗱，如果你本身係有自殺嘅念頭嘅話咧，
I would ask first, open up to someone, find a friend, find someone that you can talk,
首先要開放自己，揾一個你可以傾訴嘅對象，
find a counselor,
揾一個嘅輔導員，
and involve yourself in a group, whatever group. You have to find an environment of people that is good for you.
參與一啲小組，無論係任何一啲嘅小組，只要咧小組裡面你覺得同佢哋一齊相處係覺得開心嘅。
And do outdoor exercise, mostly going to green environment.
嗱，多啲咧去做戶外嘅運動，最好咧去多啲綠化大自然嘅地方。
Have a balanced diet with lots of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and nuts.
食健康均衡嘅食物，大量嘅蔬菜、水果、五穀類同埋果仁。
And please visit a church, look for spiritual health.
嗱，揾一間教會啊，希望咧喺屬靈嘅生命上面你能夠成長。